Hello again. Welcome to our legal translation course. In this opportunity, we are going to talk about the judiciary in the United States, el poder judicial en Estados Unidos. Unlike Venezuela, the U.S. legal system is a common law system. I mean, it depends, it is heavily based on precedent or case law. Let us have a look at the way how the U.S. court systems has been structured, and let's pay attention to the terms, to the words defining the bodies making up the framework of American justice system for our translations. First of all, let's talk about the federal courts, and particularly its role or their role and structure. The federal court are intended to hear cases involving the constitutionality of the law, cases involving the laws and treaties of the U.S. ambassadors and public ministers, or disputes between two or more states, federal states, as well as the admiralty law or maritime law, and bankruptcy cases. They are federal nature. They got a federal nature that need to be heard by federal courts. The federal judiciary operates separately from the executive and legislative branches of government, but often they work with the executive and with the legislative branch of government whenever the Constitution requires so. Federal laws are passed by Congress, and they are signed or enacted by the President, promulgated by the President. The judicial branch decides the constitutionality of federal laws and resolves other disputes about federal laws. However, judges depend on the government's executive branch to enforce their decisions. Courts decide what really happened and what should be done about it. They decide whether a person committed a crime and what the punishment should be. They also provide a peaceful way to decide private disputes that people can't resolve themselves. Depending on the dispute or crime, some cases end up in the federal courts and some end up in state courts. I encourage you to inquire a bit more about the different types of federal courts existing. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, just by definition, is the highest court in the United States. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution created the Supreme Court and authorized Congress to pass laws establishing a system of lower courts. In the federal court system's present form, 94 district-level trial courts and 13 courts of appeals sit below the Supreme Court. There are 13 appellate courts that sit below the U.S. Supreme Court, and they are called the U.S. Court of Appeals, though that's their official name. The 94 federal judicial districts are organized into 12 regional circuits, each of which has a court of appeals. That means that a circuit is bigger than a district. So you've got 94 federal judicial districts in 12 regional circuits. Each regional circuit has a court of appeals. The appellate court's task is to determine whether or not the law was applied correctly in the trial court. Appeals courts consist of 3 judges and do not use any jury at all. A court of appeals hears challenges to district court decisions from courts located within its circuit, as well as appeals from decisions issued by or adopted by federal administrative agencies. In addition, the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has nationwide jurisdiction to hear appeals in specialized cases such as those involving patent laws and cases decided by the U.S. Court of International Trade and the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Besides that, we got also a body called the Bankruptcy Appellate Panel. Bankruptcy Appellate Panels, also known as BAPs, are 3-judge panels authorized to hear appeals of bankruptcy court decisions. These panels are a unit of the Federal Courts of Appeal and must be established by that circuit. So far there are 5 circuits that have established bankruptcy appellate panels. Now the district courts, you know, we can say that, you know, the US 94 districts or district or trial courts are called US district courts. So when you hear the word district court, we are talking about trial courts, you know. District courts resolve disputes by determining the facts and applying legal principles to decide who is right in a dispute or in a criminal case. Trial courts include the district judge who tries the case and a jury that decides the case. Magistrate judges assist district judges in preparing cases for trial. They may also conduct trials in misdemeanor cases, I mean in small cases. There is at least 1 district court in each state, and the District of Columbia also has a district court. Each district includes a U.S. bankruptcy court as a unit of the district court. 4 territories of the United States have U.S. district courts that hear federal cases, including bankruptcy cases: Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. There are 2 special trial courts as well. The Court of International Trade addresses cases involving international trade and customs laws. The U.S. Court of Federal Claims deals with most claims for money damages against the U.S. government. Then we got the bankruptcy courts that we have just mentioned. The bankruptcy court, or decisions handed down by bankruptcy courts, can be appellate at the bankruptcy appellate panels that we have just mentioned before. Federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction over bankruptcy cases involving personal, business, or farm bankruptcy. This means a bankruptcy case cannot be filed in a state court. Through the bankruptcy process, individuals or businesses that can no longer pay their creditors may either seek a court-supervised liquidation of their assets, or they may reorganize their financial affairs and work out a plan to pay their debts. Finally, we got the so-called Article 1 courts. What is this? What is an Article 1 court? The Congress created several Article 1 or legislative courts that do not have full judicial power. Judicial power is the authority to be the final decider in all questions relating to constitutional law. All questions of federal law are resolved at this level, with these Article 1 courts, which can hear claims at the core of habeas corpus issues, habeas corpus. Article 1 courts existing so far are the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, and the U.S. Tax Court. Thank you very much.